Greetings friends, and welcome to another exciting prop build. And today we are building a mushroom.
And thank you to my little assistant, my youngest, who drew me a wonderful picture of a mushroom. And when your daughter draws you a picture of a mushroom, you have to build a life-size prop of it. Now please don't draw like an elephant or something. So anyways, right off the bat, you're going to find a template down below with everything that you need to get started on this. And in reality, all on the template is this. And this is half of a kind of the top of the mushroom. I only did half because A, the piece of paper is not big enough if you're printing on a regular printer. And yeah, then you just have to assemble it. You'll see that there's these bullets. You'll cut tape, everything like that. And then what you do is you want to trace it onto a bigger piece of paper, like so. Do it once, flip it over, trace it to the other side, and now you're going to end up with the template we need for almost this entire build. You have to go cut out 9 of these, and by my calculations and how it worked out is the standard 24 by 24 EVA foam exercise mat. You can get 3 of these out of each one. So you'll need 3 mats, whatever ones you want to get, go for it, but that will be your base on how to do it. Now, when you go to cut these, after you've got these marked out on the EVA foam, what you want to do is when you take your knife, you want to cut it at a very slight angle downwards. Because what it does is that way when the mats get rubber cemented together, instead of being flat like this, they've got a slight tip, and it allows it to form better into the mushroom shape. And it's super important, especially if you cut the wrong way, and like I may or may not have done on one of the pieces, but that's another story. So you'll go through and you'll cut out 9 of these. It doesn't take too long. And then once you've got them cut out, you're going to do a forced fold on them. You're going to take it, you're going to fold it up like that. And not like that. You're going to force this fold. And what it does is it's going to get this into the kind of the profile that you're going to need to be able to glue all these together. Now, I'm going to show you the glue on 2 random pieces of foam, which are actually the leftover of the actual pieces that I cut out, because I glued them all together before I recorded anything. So yeah. Now, what you're going to do is once you've got this completely cut out, and you'll see that there's a camber to that thing, and the pattern will lend itself to this camber automatically. That's the wonderful thing. If you glue this together right, the mushroom forms itself. Now, what you want to do is you want to stick using rubber cement. Make sure it's ready to go. You know, it's dry and good. You'll start at the top and you'll connect about the first 3 inches. Then you'll go to the bottom and then you'll connect 3 inches. And then working up, back and forth, you're going to slowly compress those seams together. The first few are easy. It is an absolute gong show by the time you get to that last seam that forms the mushroom. So I wish you luck, and hopefully it turns out. It did for me, and I'm sure you can do it. It's just, it's a little bit of a rodeo. Anyways, that's how you build the mushroom, and we're going to continue on with the rest of the build. All right, once you have all 9 segments all joined up, I'm going to go over how you actually get this into this form here. I didn't do it as a multi-step process because I got carried away and I just got in over my head and got to stop and record every once in a while. Now here, this is Carpenter's wood filler. It works really good at filling in and getting all of the surfaces here kind of completely boxed in. It has some flexibility to it. I'll put it down here regardless, just so you can see what I used. It gives flexibility, and it's not perfect for, like, there's certain gaps here where it cracked out, but that's okay. That's character to what you're working on. Once you've got that on, it sands beautifully, and it's actually it's got some elasticity to it, and it's really beautiful for sanding. So you can do a great job of these seams. Just makes it so if you have any, rough spots after you have it, and if you have them real large differences, use your Dremel with a sanding bit in it just to get these as flat as possible before you put the wood filler on. So you just go through the whole thing. You can see at the top, it's not absolutely perfect, but it's pretty close. You can see just how that wood filler really evens out everything. Now down here, these circles are just 6-inch circles that you can do whatever size you want, or no circles at all. This is the style I'm going with this mushroom. All I did is got it sanded down so they have a little bit of a profile to them. You can see it there. And what it does is just makes it look like the dots belong. Then using caulking, I go all the way around. Now, when you're doing the caulking here, if you have a spray bottle, and this is just acrylic latex caulk, so if you have a spray bottle, you spray it and it wets it down. And then what I do is I put a little bit here, a little bit here, and then after I sprayed it, it gets pretty wet. I use it to spread over the whole surface. And what this does, you can see where I rub my hand. Oh, that's getting hot. That sun is warm. You can see where my hand went. This will, for the most part, disappear when the paint's on. But what it does is it creates a consistent texture. So when the top coat goes on, you don't see the difference between the wood and then the foam, because the foam takes the paint differently than the wood does. It's just a nice little trick to seal it all up and make sure that when your paint goes on, everything works out well. Now we're going to work on the base here, and I'm starting with a 6-inch concrete tube as the stem. You can do whatever you really want here in terms of like flared base. This is technically incorrect, but there's a secondary purpose to this. This allows the base to be stable without any extra support on it. Now what this is just an extra piece of 4-inch garbage I've had lying around, and I keep it around just for stuff like this. It's acting as a fill-in. You can use other foam, you can use the white foam. You just need something to build out this base, because you'll be attaching it to plywood when you're all done regardless, just to give it that extra strength. But right now, this is what we're going to do. Now I'm going to go get super messy, and I'm going to spray foam the heck out of this and let it start drying. See you in a moment. Now you can see the base here. I put all the spray foam in, and this is where things did not go as in plan nor intended. You can see I ended up with a lot of holes in here. And when I was doing the foam, I was just using a serrated knife to cut it down, because this was initially going to be like a nice fluted bottom for it. But man, it went sideways, and you know what? I realized that I didn't think it was going to work, so I decided to make it into a rock. So using the knife, I carved it all down, started taking pieces out and cutting in and flicking out, and just kind of, as best as I could, convert this thing into a rock. And what's funny is in the end, I actually like the way it looks better as a rock that the mushroom's going to be growing out of than I did the fluted base. The only other thing I'm going to be doing is right here. I've got a small mushroom I'm going to have growing out, and another small mushroom over here somewhere, just because I think it'll look cool. Now this here is amazing stuff. This wood filler, I've not used this before. I actually got it for a different project, but I was like, I wonder how it would work on here. And you know what? This is awesome. The way it dries. I also used it, as you saw, on the top of the mushroom, which I haven't recorded when this part is here. So I'm kind of doing this backwards. So by the time you see this, you already know why they did the mushroom top and used the wood filler. So I'll just shut up. Anyways, so here we go. I use it to fill in these gaps here. And this stuff is brilliant. It's not quite like drywall mud. It is a little bit harder, but easier to sand. A little bit harder when it's, you know, all finished. Great stuff. Anyways, I'm probably going to be using it more in the future, but for now I'm just going to shut up and say I'm going to go sand this down just a little bit to get it right. I'm going to paint the whole thing in brown, and then I'm going to put an acrylic grout on the bottom here, which is right here. You'll see the picture is going to be right here. So I would remember to put the picture right there. I'll be back once this is all covered up, and we're going to be moving forward. This will be brown because I'll be base coating this, and this will be stone if all goes according to plan. See you in a few. Now you'll see way down here we have a piece of styrofoam. You can use a piece of wood. 2-inch styrofoam is perfect for this. That is measured to fit the inside of the tube. And what that does, it just gives this thing a place to sit on, so when the mushroom top goes on, it doesn't just get knocked off easy. In reality, you don't need that, and you can just let it sit there free. Not a big deal either way. Now what I did is I put this onto my mushroom, and then I got the angle of how I wanted this to look all set up. And then reaching underneath, I drew a pen line around, and what that did, it told me where I'm going to stick this, because as you can see, it's not perfectly central up there. What that means is it just has it so when this is on, the mushroom top kinks just very slightly to give it a really cool look and feel. So now after that, I put a little bit of caulking underneath and some caulking around to hold it in place. And while I was recording the previous segment, it fell off because I'm getting ahead of myself. Now I gotta make sure I don't step in that, or my kids don't step in that. That will make a huge mess. Anyways, I'm going to let this dry. And then after that, I'm going to be putting a base coat onto the mushroom of purple. And we'll have to take it from there. And once I've got that all done, I want to get the red on. I'll see you when this thing's all colored up, because that'll be the pretty much heading towards the final. I'm going to make some small mushrooms that go on the side of the main mushroom. And I start that with, first of all, getting a piece of 2-inch styrofoam and then kind of matching it up to the base of the rock to make sure it kind of sits at the right angle. And then what you do is you just use a knife to carve it down to rough. You'll sand it, and then using a heat gun, it'll actually smooth the whole thing out just lovely like. Now this, I'm using 4-inch, you know, that dreaded 4-inch that I always have kicking around. You can use 2-inch on this. Actually, in many cases, the 2-inch might be easier to initially carve. So anyways, you can laminate it and go with that. I'm going to cut this circle out, and then using a handsaw, I cut the angles to get them very rough. And then using a knife, I cut it down even further, and then sandpaper to finish it off. So I'm going to go do that, and I'll show you it as I get closer. See that it's all cut out, and I've got the 4 main angles done. I'm going to start whittling this down, but you'll see on the bottom that the bottom has been all cut out because I'm going to be doing striations in there, or the fins. And what I use for that is my lovely Princess Auto / Harbor Freight hot knife. This thing works brilliant. Just use it for around the edge, and I put it in an angle to get rid of the rest of the material. Oh, there we go. Now I'm going to go finish smoothing this out with an X-Acto knife and some sandpaper, and then hitting it with heat gun. I'll show you what the end result looks like. Mushroom. So now that's it. You can see that once you hit it with the heat gun and you've done a little bit of sanding, oh, the wind's going to take it away on me. You'll see that the heat gun can really knock down and make it really smooth. And at the bottom, I just used the heat gun and, you know, put in the tines, and almost went a little bit too far on the top there. And then I just took my knife and I knocked some little chips in it just to give it that. God, I almost did that perfectly symmetrical. That's why humans are bad randomizers. So you can see I put in a couple chips to make it look a little bit more natural and neat looking. Anyways, I'm just going to knock out the bottom now into a circle to match the stem and attach it to the actual mushroom. Okay, before we put the base coat on, I wanted to go over how I attach these mushroom stems. These are just the brown mushroom stems you saw earlier, and this is the mushroom top where I've been going through and doing a bit more painting. I did a base coat of purple on them, and then I did, once that was down, I've done 2 coats of neon red paint. I want this thing to be UV reactive, but the paint is really thin. It's a dollar store paint, so I gotta put usually 2 coats on. You can see all my brush marks, but it looks okay. And then the bottom is going to be bright green, you know, over here. That's the color the dot's going to be, so it's going to be really cool. I just wanted to go over on how I attach these. I first of all get some, I think it was Steel Bond glue. I think even wood glue would work. And then what you do is you find where you're going to put it on, glue the back of your stem here, and then using a shish kebab skewer, what I do is I pick a spot and I drive it down through into the actual base styrofoam. Then once it's in a decent amount, I clip it off with some side cutters, and using the tips of the needle nose, I push it in that last little bit. I put one in the top and one in the bottom, and then I went through and I caulked all around the outside. And what it does is it really makes this thing strong, so it's not going to break too easy. And if it does move a little bit, the caulking and everything holds it together, along with the shish kebab. You can see here too, same thing. Just you can see the skewer put in there, cut and forced in. It makes this really strong. The glue is still drying, as is the caulking, so it has some time. And once again, the mushroom top here. And it just fits on all lovely like that. Now, I'm going to continue on and get this all done up with rock now that these mushrooms are in place. If you use a white caulk, of course, you can use a little bit of brown. I'm going to go touch this up once this caulking dries just a little bit more. And once it's all brown, then I can start doing the rock and making it look really good. I'm also going to be dry brushing this with the same color that I dry brushed this with, just so it matches and all the mushrooms kind of look like they belong with each other. Anyways, now you see that the flicker light's installed. You can do whatever lighting you want. You can go with an RGB light. I'm going with this flicker light because I like the way that it washes down onto the floor. Makes this thing into a really cool night light and doubles as, you know, when it looks good with the black light on it. Now all I did is using a Forstner bit. You can cut this with a chisel, or not chisel, but a knife to get this opening here. And then here, I just cut a piece of wood that matches the swoop of the pipe. So when this goes in, it pulls it nice and tight and holds it in place. Then just screwed it back. And then once the mushroom cap goes on, this gets covered 95%. Then way down there, which you can't see, it's the darkness of the chasm, I'm going to be making a hole for the power cord to come out of so he can plug this thing in and not make it look so ugly. And as you can see, I've got the coat of paint on it, the light brown and the upper light brown here, and redid the base because I liked it better. And way out there, you can see my mushroom cap is all masked up and waiting for the green to dry. Anyways, all right, you can see now the mushroom is all painted. And the color here is a base coat of purple, and then I used a pressure sprayer to do the neon red as 2 coats, and then the base here, I wonder if you can see it, it's got an orange gradient up from the bottom. I really like the orange because it's a very strong UV reactive paint. Now up here, I did this with just whatever green I had lying around as a base coat, and then I used neon green to finish up. This took a lot of masking. You saw in the earlier picture all the masking that I had done on it. And just like that, you now have a completed mushroom. Now the base, we're going to go over, I don't catch my shadow on it here. This is just floral moss that I have stuck on with silicone. Some of it will come off in time, but most of it will stick. And you can see back here, this here is the power cord, and I put a pipe there for it to feed through to go up to the flicker bulb that hits quite happily under here. The other thing I did is I hit the bottom of this with neon green as a spray, because believe it or not, this green is not UV reactive. Who'd have thunk it? Now the rest of it is just go as far as you want. This is full floral moss. This is just floral moss again. You can do a little or as much as you want. And then the final thing that I did, hopefully we can see it here, is I took a sea sponge and did a little bit brown, darker brown, and I added some texture to the whole stem of the mushroom just to give it a bit more character. And just like that, the whole mushroom is finished. See if I can get up and talk about the rest of it and give you a whole picture. So you can see one completed fantasy type whimsical mushroom. You don't have to do this style. You can do a horror style with this to change colors. I wanted UV reactive, so mine ended up being very bright and whimsical for that exact reason. Thank you so much for hanging out with this interesting and different build. As you know, most of my builds are all over the place. This has got lots of potential for many different builds, and once that flicker light turns on, it's amazing looking. You'll see it at the end of the video at how it looks. Anyways, thank you to my patrons who throw me a little bit each month to help me out with this craziness that I get into, and thanks to all of my subscribers and all my viewers. You guys are awesome. You help make this all possible for me. I hope you enjoyed my mushroom build and enjoy the final outro. Have a good one all.